Okay, it is 8 a.m. by this clock, 82 by that one.
Why not?
And I want to just call the meeting, the DDA meeting of February. Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
Oh,
We'll make sure.
Like.
You can have mine.
You want mine?
We will, I want to call the meeting of DDA meeting of February 12th, 2025 to order. So Becky, when you get over there, if you can just do roll call, please.
Yes. Good morning, Brown. Gail.
Oh, yes.
Good morning.
I was playing with my microphone.
Esselbrenner. Here. Eubank. Here. Rivers.
Here.
Lacy. Not. Excused. Law. Here. Graham.
Here.
Wheaton. Here. Ms. White. Here. And Lizzie is not here. She might show.
We have a forum.
Yeah, we have a form.
Okay, first agenda item will be the approval of the consent agenda. So has everyone read it? And I do have a couple of amendments that need to be done.
And I have a couple comments about the financial report.
Right, okay. So the first one, Becky, is on page 3, and it uses the name Gail Oldfield.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. There's 2 of those.
Yeah, 2
I
of
saw
those.
that.
And then the other one's on page 4.
One's under 8.
Consistent.
One's under section 8, one's under section 11.
And the other is that on page 5, section 12, you refer to the DDA as the DMB.
Bold.
A little bit more time. She might know she doesn't
Thank
need
you.
DMB, okay. Team, any questions or comments? Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second,
Second.
okay. The consent agenda is approved.
Okay, and I'm going to talk about the financial report for just a minute. I put at your place today this new format that I've been talking about that I hope is easier for everyone to understand and a lot easier for us to track exactly how much we spent on each project and in each line item and what's left spent throughout the year. So there's been very little activity in January because it's the first month, so this will get more complicated as the year goes on. But a good example of this is if you look under revenue in Ice Fest, it says sculpture sales at $8,650. That's the revenue that was taken in during the month of January for that. Now, if you scooch over to the purple column, it will give you $10,200, and that's what's been taken in to date on that. And that includes money that was taken in, and that's pretty hard for you to see up there, but so that's I could do. That includes money that was taken in November, because some people paid, one person paid in November, a couple people paid in December, and then so that's what we've received in that line item. We've also received a lot of money in February, but that's not in this. This is January's report. So you can see in the line for expenses, what's been paid for wages and fringes, and that's me, and that's what we've given to Nate, who is plowing the sidewalks. And then the downtown projects, you go further down, I broke it out down into the unification beautification project, which the only thing we've spent are the flower pots there. So you can see that 17,881 price there. So this gives you a lot more detail than you were seeing in just the ledger sheet that we were getting before. Simplicity, even though that was last year's project, they didn't get paid until January 15th because they didn't finish it until then. And nothing's been on the Merchants Walkway. I know this is your first look at this, but do you have any questions about it? Are you happy with it?
I think it looks great. I like the more detailed aspect to see exactly what things are. So that's great. It'll clear up some questions for sure.
It makes it easier for me to follow as well.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you for doing that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Becky. Are there any public comments on, sorry, are there any public comments on anything that is not on the agenda? Bonnie.
Springs Chamber of Commerce, Bonnie Cole. I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware we have Restaurant Week going on from February 21st through March 2nd. We have 18 restaurants this year, which we think is the highest we've ever had. From Brutus Camp Deli, of course, down through Harbor Springs, State Road, now called Barn Grill. For those of you, that's just been announced, State Road Barn Grill. And then over into Petoskey and Bar Harbor, Nomi in Bar Harbor. So it's a really nice array of restaurants. So anyway, something for everybody to get out and do. And then our State of the Community is March 13th at the Pier Restaurant. So tickets are on sale for that. If people would like to go. Looks to be a really great event. We have our traditional individuals speaking, Brad Blackmeyer from the schools, Victor Sinodinowski, obviously from here. But we have 3 premier speakers. Seth Johnson from United Way of Northwest Michigan will be speaking, as well as, now I'm gonna draw a blank. Ryan Batchelor, who is the executive director of Boston Airport. Talk about that. And then we haven't pinned down who, but someone from Shoreham ISD. Hopefully their superintendent of schools. So it's a really nice group of individuals, different topics, different things, community. So thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Any other public comments?
Real quick, I just want to give kudos to the DPW. I remember about 4 or 5 years ago when we were getting a lot of snow, we were having the piles up downtown and we were trying to figure out how to take care of them, like that picture right there. And because of the fact that they're down there, like every week taking that stuff off the sidewalk, and that's made I walk downtown yesterday. It's a lot nicer down there. So it's been a positive change.
Done a great job. Okay, nope. Sarah, do we have anyone on Zoom? We have Bill?
Just Bill Mulder, but no comment.
Okay, excellent. So the next agenda item is the zoning. This is a zoning code discussion. Becky will share with us.
I don't think he's here. Did you see him?
I did not.
Peek. No, it's dark. Okay. I can add them. This is just, Jeff had just said, Jeff and I had discussed this, and as they're going through the zoning code, he was thinking that it might be nice if, the DDA could weigh in on an issue that the planning commission will be looking at. And that would be, whether we would recommend to them how we feel, how the DDA feels about if there is a renovation or a new building or reconstruction of any kind on a commercial street, how we feel about the public openings. Do we feel that it should be in the ordinance that the windows should not be closed up, that the doorways should be on the front street? Margaret, next to you, or Cora next to you, just say that building is empty right now. And what if someone came to redevelop it and they said, well, I want the doorway on the side, there's a little bit of room over there to make something different happen. And I don't want the windows to face the front street. I'd like them to face the back, or I'd like to block them up. How do you feel about that happening in a commercial district?
Well, first of all, the theater bought the building that's next door to me, that was Elliott and Elliott, and I don't know what their plans are, but I'm concerned that they're just gonna board it up or, close it up and it's gonna look like it's nothing.
Well, that could be an example of how this would apply to the future.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just
Commercial street, so-
confused on
Okay.
how how the ordinance would be written. That's kind of, I'm confused on how this would be stated, or.
I mean, I was kind of thinking the same thing, because like from your perspective, because my husband works at the theater, I know that they're planning on eventually turning that into a theater.
Right.
So I'm assuming that would be, it would be a theater room. So my only concern is if somebody, a private entity buys a building, I mean, do we really want to get into the business of having codes of what somebody can do with the building? I mean, as long as it's.
And I feel like we kind of do, because you
Yeah.
have to apply for emergency license. if
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
in a
yeah,
sales
that's what I
zone, and you can't necessarily rezone and live residential in
That's-
a building that is downstairs, so you would be blocking off windows, so.
Ken, throwing me a lot of questions here,
Sorry.
already, but
So
fortunately, we don't have to worry about how to write this, because
Yeah.
that would be up to Jeff and the planning commission. But what we would be concerned with is how do we want the commercial district to look? do we want to have the facades, the front facades of the stores all look commercial and all look like someone's doing business in there? It's kind of when a pedestrian walks down the street and they see a blocked in, no frontage building, they look at it and say, am I in the right place? Is this downtown? Is this, maybe I should turn around and go back?
I think for me, it would be, I would question what the building is doing, what the business is, and does it require, do you know what I mean? I keep thinking about the theater. I mean, if they're gonna turn that into a theater, they can't have it windows.
Off the table right now, because they already have their paperwork, they're already done, they can already do it. It's
But
already-
just
they're just
Going forward,
So
like-
going forward. Okay.
I mean, and then like, it's just like, I feel like I'm still having a hard time visualizing, because like, you say, for example, like the building next to me, like, they can't have their stuff because that's my property. So like,
It's just.
I know, but like, that's why I'm like, I'm having a hard time like finding an example to see like,
How would you feel if Rocking Horse closed? Horrible. And someone bought the building and they decided they were going to have office space in there, and this isn't a good example, but, and they didn't want any frontage on the street because it was distracting. And they didn't want to see people going back and forth, and they wanted everyone to come in, so they were gonna close up the front, brick it over, and their window to the world would be out the back door. How would you feel about that?
Well, I think that, well, I might be too optimistic,
Okay.
that I don't think on Main Street, anyone that comes into Harbor Springs and wants to open a business is going to brick it off. First off, most of them can't even get in a back door. They don't have that, ability. And I think it could possibly impact Third Street. But except for the Lyrics Building and, Cool House, that's already owned by someone, I just don't see that.
Unless they're an attorney or something like that, and they want to have legal office on Main Street, and all of a sudden they want to look much more like a league. Sorry, an attorney or somebody like that, they could very much want to look much more like a formal business instead of a retail establishment. So I think we have to be careful that we don't think it's something that's gonna happen when we probably have seen it happen in a lot of other businesses. We are trying to promote ourselves as a retail establishment and an active environment. And I think we need to make sure that it stays and looks and supports retail.
I mean, an attorney could come in and block off the windows and still keep the door open. That could happen. I mean, we can't really dictate use, but we can dictate through the code, the look.
Yes, that.
I mean, that's something that I feel I obviously don't want that to happen, but I also am like on the fence about it, because I feel like it's really hard to like dictate what someone can or can't do with their specific building. And I know we do have certain things that do say certain things, but I don't know.
The code can dictate what you can do in a certain district.
No, I know, but I also, I am definitely not for like extremely restrictive things. That's not something I'm personally for, because I'm the person who wants a mural on my building. I'm the person who wants, to be able to do what you want because, you own a space and you should be able to kind of do certain things, but at the same time,
You
it's
think
kind of,
that's a step too far.
I mean, I don't know. I'm still not on the fully like grasping I think it's very important to know like what specifically, how the code will be written. I think that's very.
I think that's what I would want to see as well, just because of spaces like, and I understand that we're a retail district, but we also need to think about other business other than just retail as well, to bring people into our area. I think a good diversity of business is always the best idea. So we do have something like the Lyric could potentially open. Do we really want to restrict what they could do? Because they could be a great asset to the downtown community. So I would really,
They are.
I mean, not just the Lyric, but if there was something else that came that would be another great asset to the community, I would really want to see what the planning commission is thinking. I'm with Cora. I really don't like the idea of heavily restricting what a property owner can do further than what we already restrict, especially when it comes to usage for business. Because any thriving business in an area is fantastic. So I would really kind of my opinion would be, I would want to kick it back to the planning commission to see what their thought processes are before I gave a solid recommendation past what I already did.
So just to be clear, I don't know that the planning commission has discussed this at all yet.
Yeah,
Jeff was thinking this would be information to take to them.
yeah,
And he was also thinking if he had been here, he would talk to you about it today and get your thoughts and then come back the following month and see if you were interested in making a formal recommendation to them, or if you just
I
want
would
to
love
send
to
your
see
comments.
I would love to see the planning commission talk about it and then bring it back to see what their thoughts are, just because it seems like there's a lot of open-ended.
It's just, it's
Possibility.
too vague at this point. I
Yeah.
think. It's too, like too many options for us to make a recommendation.
So he can listen to this and I'm sure he will see that when he, it's better than the minutes will even convey.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I would
Do we
recommend.
currently have any businesses? Kind of like what we were discussing with a side entrance, a back entrance,
Well, you will.
I mean, we will with the lyric. Yeah,
do we currently have any others that anybody can think of?
Can't think.
No.
Here
Oh, where? Oh,
here.
the pier? Oh.
Well,
yeah, they
that's
do.
like a secondary side entrance. This would be primary entrance only on the side.
Yeah.
Like, or on the back
think
of
of-
Main Street.
yeah.
Was the outfitter qualified?
Outfitters got front
No,
and
it's
back.
Front and back.
Same with gurneys, doubles.
Yeah, there's others that have
Yeah.
front and back.
No,
Sure.
I mean, I think there was an example that, what if at some point in time, they just couldn't staff it well enough? And they said, we can't handle the front, it's a big store, this is just a what if. And we can't keep the front door open, the majority of our customers park in the back and they come in the back door, so we can't keep the front door open. And because we can't monitor it, we can't watch for shoplifting and that kind of. And then after a while, they would think, well, if we didn't have all those windows there, we could block that in and that would be storage space. We could put clothing racks against the wall. These are just what ifs that could happen.
Well, I think that we can't what if everything. We just can't. I mean, there would be, the list would be endless and we'd be sitting here probably 10 or 12 years from now. But I like the idea. We could, I wish Jeff was here so he could realize the input because all we have is this little kind of synopsis here.
Oh, I have a question for Kathy. During the time, Kathy Breitner, during the time when we had like 11 open storefronts and you were walking the streets and you were trying to lure in businesses, was this ever an issue? Was it anything to do with planning or zoning on our end as far as filling those?
No, it wasn't. In my thought would be, does this type of conversation happen in other codes? So if they were coming to here to look, would our code be different than Petoskey or Charlevoix?
In my experience, this is kind of common to say that there has to be an entrance on the street and windows that would be open.
So the other thing too is that like some of these things that I've had conversations with Jeff in the past where there are certain things like, for example, painting murals on walls where it's not addressed in the code, which means it's actually not permitted. So like if there is not language in the code that states how to go about doing something, it's considered not permitted. So there's also that as well.
So how about you all think about it when you can't sleep at night? And we'll get Jeff to come back. He wants more information to take back to the planning commission. Although I guess Bill is on the Zoom, so, but we'll just kind of let it stay on the table.
I think that's a good plan, just because we could sit here and talk for an hour about possibilities and we don't even know what they're exactly thinking. So I would say to bring it.
This is Bill. I hear you guys, and I'm sure we'd be happy to round things up a little bit and then bring it back for you.
From the aesthetic standpoint of small, charming downtown, as everybody drives down, I don't think it would be too much to ask for us to recommend that their storefront, their signage, and their entrance is in the front.
Well, I think right now, language will turn over to the planning commission
Yeah.
on that kind of thing. So I think right now, we're just seeing this for the first time, and hearing it. And it's just our
And I'm
discussion.
not a
is-
planner to
Right,
present
and
it.
informal, so that taking it to the next step. Have Jeff explain it a little bit better, not that you didn't do a good job, you did. But, with the information you have, so, and he's gonna, if he has some ideas after he listens to that. Will help us.
Great.
Is that good?
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you.
You want public comment from Zoom now on this or later?
No, let's do public comment. We can start with anyone in the audience have public comment? Okay,
We do have someone sitting right there.
yeah. Has anyone got their hand?
Okay, the two comments, are you concerned at all about the former store on Judd and Main turning into a single family home? And ridiculous that anyone would want to block Main Street. Or the two comments.
Okay, that's the, is that blue house.
Anyone know when the last time that was open for regular business hours? And I mean, maybe, and Bishop would
I
know
mean,
better
the
than
Judd
me,
and Main.
or you were very close as well.
I mean, it's
Oh,
not.
I know that
it's-
they've done some business in there, I think.
I don't think that it's ever been, at least the times that it's been open since I've been down there. I don't think it's ever been like regular hours, like I'm open Monday through Saturday from 8 to 9 PM. I don't think that they've ever had regular hours, but they've been open inconsistently throughout the years.
Well,
So-
okay, new owners bought it in August and now and they're professional Airbnb people and it is Airbnb now. And they have gone to the zoning and got approval temporary, or I don't understand how the whole thing, but I know they have gotten approval to become a single family home. So and then there's a single family home next door and then there's a single family home next to me. So basically there's nothing on Third past, where you are, Margaret, that's a business, and there's nothing past the beauty shop, a lure or whatever that is, that's a business anymore either. So, I mean, and if you're just letting everybody turn these businesses into single family homes, I mean, I guess I don't understand the point of the DDA being that big. You should just make it smaller.
Well, the area that I'm located in is for residential and commercial. That's the way it's been zoned since our last zoning, the last zoning area. So even my building that I'm in at one point in time it's been a host of single family homes. Plus it's been businesses throughout its history. So that entire block, and I'm not sure how far it goes, if it goes to where the bed and breakfast used to be, the yellow building, that we are zoned for commercial and residential in that area. So people can,
All
they
right.
could close up my business and turn it into a single family home.
Okay. All right. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Because I'm probably going to do that pretty soon too. So, okay.
Well, I mean, also, this is that's more of a planning committee.
Yeah.
Planning commission discussion than it is
DDA.
something that we can handle.
No, I mean, it has to do too with their side. The question was, did they have regular business hours? And I do know that Laura and Michael did have that their goal was to have a regular business, and they did have it for 2 years, which is the only time, you can only take tax losses for 2 years. So I'm sure that had something to do with it, because it's very difficult to make money in Harbor Springs in the short seasons that we have. So that's what they did. So they did have regular business hours for 2 years, but then they closed. They were there, 12 years, I think. So that's just to answer that question. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. No, you're fine.
I don't think it would be appealing to any business that any business that wanted to come in if Margaret thinks further down her road in the middle of a bunch of houses to open up a business. Do you know what I mean, it wouldn't be appealing because you're not in a district.
Well, I don't think that, I mean, that's not part of the.
That's not the discussion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not
the
part of.
discussion was.
Yeah.
it's
My
already
only
been
other
settled
comment
on.
on this would be, I feel like a lot of these things can be controlled or monitored by enforcing people to fill out a merchant's license of any sort. You know, if you're gonna occupy a building, you know, then you know what the people are gonna do, you know what they're gonna sell, you know what they're going to, you know, if they're gonna be an office building, if they're gonna be an office space. I just think that anyone who's going, that was my understanding when I was coming, any single person who was gonna occupy a downtown business had to fill that out. But I'm not sure how much that is enforced.
Okay, for the discussion, we have the agenda item on the table. It is on the, has to do with the bringing to the zoning commission, which we already decided. We want to talk to Jeff, we want him to listen. He can go to the planning commission, et cetera. It is not about whether someone turns their house into anything or turns it commercial. Okay, now the fun stuff. Jody's going to do a motions committee report, and then we'll move it on as a subcommittee. Vice President.
Well, I'm gonna make this, I'm gonna make this real brief because the star of the show is the Ice Fest from this past weekend for sure. When we had our promotions meeting, we had some information from Keep It Real Social, which already has shown us how many people they're reaching, and they're really not just sharing posts, they're making posts. And we have the ability, Becky has the ability to look at that at any given time and look at the statistics as far as search engine optimization, SEO. And it's pretty hard. It's difficult for us right now to measure anything. I mean, we're gonna have to have some line levels before we start measuring, but
Well, we got a baseline to start.
yeah, and I think that thus far they've done a good job, especially with the Ice Fest, our biggest festival that we have. The committee did ask Becky to get direction from Keep It Real Social regarding the process. If somebody wants to showcase something, how do they go about doing that? And so we'll wait for an answer on that one from Keep It Real Social. I think yes, you were not at the last meeting, so we didn't go over the keeping business, sponsoring businesses that are open year round, like just having a separate clip for that, if you will. Ice Fest report, that was just where we were at that point. Shuttle service, we've had 2 meetings scheduled. The second one fell smack dab into last week, right in the middle of it, and I decided to cancel it based on all the Ice Fest peeps running around doing good Ice Fest things. And the week before that, we had a huge snowstorm, so more on that soon. Skeletons Arise. Not too much discussion on that at the last meeting. And then did we want to visit from Santa? Quite a bit of discussion on that one, and I think there will be good things on the horizon. We might possibly utilize Trevor Furby as Santa's workshop during the month of December, possibly tree lighting. And during those times, if we don't have Santa there, obviously what will be majority of the time, it'll just be an informational place for people to go, and we'll buy some elves outfits and we'll put some of the board in it and be fun as well.
I don't remember.
You don't?
No.
I think you missed that meeting.
I did miss that meeting. I guess I'm gonna definitely have to attend.
But the big
Board members.
What's the big important news is Ice Fest, and before I turn it over to Nikki, the Ice Fest committee just deserves a huge round of applause, and to add Gail to that, who walked the streets every single solitary day. She's making it a job for herself. And Lizzie Bassett was a big help in gathering some volunteers and lots of in-kind donations and lots of people to thank, but I will turn that over to Miss Nikki and congratulations on probably what I think is the best ice fest we've ever had.
I would definitely agree. I was really excited. I was really excited Friday night. This was our eighth year, I believe. And it was the biggest crowds that I had ever seen on Friday night. The stores were busy. In front of the live demos were super busy. What was even more exciting was being able to talk to some of the bigger sponsors that we had this year. I got to speak with Trish Laporte, who's going to be opening Jolie by the Bay. And she was ecstatic with her sponsorship on Friday night. Her and her team were already talking about what they were going to do for next year. And wanted to meet with me to kind of go over their ideas. The pier, I got to meet with that whole new team and they were beyond excited. They went through, I think, 10 gallons of chowder on Saturday and that was at 1:30. So overall, I think that finally after as many years as we've been doing this, it's finally getting some legs underneath of it. And it was, aside from a perfect weekend, it was busy. Even the demos at 3 o'clock had big crowds. I had a huge crowd in front of the salon for my live demo, which was super fantastic. And got a new client out of it. So that was even better. But aside from that, the committee was amazing. Birchwood was thrilled with their sponsorship. We got sponsorships from outside of Harbor Springs. They're in for next year. We already have talked about ideas that we were gonna do. I think we went through somewhere between 400 and 500 hot dogs.
5 tubs of ice cream. I think.
5 or 6 tubs of ice cream. I think we did well over 200 packs of s'mores. The kids, the park was full. We went through almost all of my paint for snow painting. So it was fantastic. I talked to people on the street that had come from, there was somebody who had come to 3 different ice fests. He said this was the best year ever. They had come from 2.5 hours away. There were people, one lady said that this was an amazing spirit of the community to show because we weren't asking for people to pay for all of these things. And it was one of the few community events that they had gone to that every big event was free, from the park to the carriage rides to the demos that they got to come and enjoy. And she had shopping bags in her hands. I walked down the street and I saw people going into M119 Studio. So we catered to our community. We brought people from the outside community. And it was really fantastic. It was a really great event and I was really excited to be a part of it. So thank you so much for agreeing to do it again.
And Nikki, you worked so hard on that.
I stayed in bed all day.
I don't know how many more years you can keep doing that.
Oh, Stacey, I'm good. It was really great. And it was great to hear having the business owners. I know that some of the business owners, we wore our red hats. They came up and talked to Gail because Gail and I would pass each other running in the streets and she'd be like, hey, so-and-so just said this. And I really think that the community overall, and especially the businesses that were open and the businesses that were there, and I hope that everybody got a chance to get out and see what we did for the community. Because when me and Rachel and Jody and Cindy came up with this crazy idea, you know, it was to benefit the community. It was not to benefit a business. It was not to make a profit. It was to bring people in town to showcase what Harbor Springs is about and get people that maybe have never visited or think that we aren't family oriented to bring them into town to support our businesses during a month and during a weekend that we are not busy. And that's why we're doing it. We have businesses that want to already be involved for next year, and big businesses. So, and Otis was amazing. They were fantastic. And Gail and I got a chance to talk with them and they were so excited to be part of it. He's already talking about what he wants to do for next year and said to count him in. So it was great.
So rule of thumb is for an event to get legs, like the phrase that you used is 5 years. But this 8th year, the rule of thumb has changed to longer because of COVID, because time was wasted. So I saw it grow tremendously.
Yeah.
From this year, from last year to this year.
Well, and we still kept with our 40-ish, some pre-carved sculptures, and then we had all of our big stuff in the interactive park, which has been kind of a pet project of mine. Because I have a small grandchild, to see people, and we brought tons of games into the park, and we had sculptures everywhere, and people were hanging out, and we spaced it out this year, and DPW was amazing. They were incredible. To help, and Rachel from Parks and Rec was also absolutely amazing, and her husband Jordan, who was, you know, and the NHS kids, they were grilling hot dogs and having fun, and it was a great event. It really was, and I don't think you would find anybody that would say otherwise.
And I'd like to tag on to what Nikki just said again. There's been a little bit of discussion, but that all of this most of this is held in parks, if you will. So I think that we may be looking at a partnership with Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Down the line for as much time and energy as the city put in to make sure that, you know, Lucas had a lot to do.
Rachel has been on our committee for the last 2 years, and Parks has been instrumental in helping with the hot dogs, and we've collaborated with what she has left over from, you know, her ski and s'mores event. So I think with the partnerships of Parks and the DDA and some events going forward with the promotions committee, which we'll do an update when that time comes, I think this will be a really great progression of things, because it does span over the entire area of downtown, which we want it to do. We don't want it to just be limited. So it was great to have city council support and the community support to be able to pull this off. So,
And that carriage or wagon ride with the horses took people all.
well, and
around
I've already talked to Juanita for next year, and we already have a sponsor for one of them, and I think you'll be seeing 2 teams for next year and going longer. So, because it was a huge, kids loved it, and it was pretty fun to hear the sleigh bells going through. And it might be something that we can switch up, so we can go not only down Main, but we can go down Third. So there's a lot of options. So hopefully more businesses will see the benefit and be involved for next year as well.
Excellent. As a committee, Nikki, how you pull this together and keep us all straight is amazing to me, because that's, you know, otherwise.
Well, you guys are.
Wandering
I
around.
think you have a lot of input. Like, didn't she chair it last?
Oh,
year?
yes.
Amy Gillard?
No,
No.
I've chaired it, but she was on the committee. Yeah.
I did run into her at the post office the other day, and she said it was best ever, and
She was awesome.
she was
And
like, she was so excited. This was like yesterday or the day before, and she was just like still just like ecstatic. So,
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was also a very good feeling, and so I think down the line, as we look at if there's any profitability at all, I think in good faith that we should consider splitting those profits with the Parks and Rec.
And that's something that we can talk about with the committee and the.
Well, we do have a wrap-up meeting scheduled for next week.
Yeah.
And then we'll have financials to look at and.
We'll have financials, and we'll have social media, and so we'll have our final numbers, we'll have social media, we'll have all of that after next week.
Well done. Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you.
Any
everybody.
comments from the public?
Well done.
Well done. That's great. Thank you.
That's great.
Okay, thanks. Becky, oh, Maggie.
Margaret. We've got our pots.
Yeah.
Yay. They are in storage right now till the spring. We're still trying to work out getting how we're gonna do this soil. The soil will be put in, what kind of plants. We're talking about maybe asking the garden club for their input on what should be put in the pots. I mean, I've been gardening for a long time, but if somebody's gonna give me some professional advice, I'm all ears. I think, you know, we definitely wanna have their 2 cents on it. Becky, you got some information about we are putting bids in for the painting the lamp posts.
We did put an RFP out for that. It's due on the 28th. I'm posting it at Sherwin-Williams, at Lowe's, and at Home Depot as well, to see if we can get some traction to it. It's been on the website for 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't received anything yet, but a lot of times those things don't come into the very last minute, so we'll see how much that might cost us. Do you know any painters?
And I'm still trying to work out the utility box, trying to cover the utility boxes, but after realizing that the boxes can be lowered, which I think would be a big plus, it would be less visual interference when you're at the corner to see cars coming. So that's step one, would be to lower the utility boxes that are up high. And I think these are the utility boxes that were put in for the original Third Street holiday lighting. So those have to be lowered, and then we have to get measurements to put a cover on. Cigarette urns, I did not.
You were ill for this meeting, so you're kind of left. That was something that came up that we, in some photographs, I brought it up to the few of us who were here, that in a picture I saw, ooh, we haven't even addressed that. And I'm not even sure who owns those urns, if they're private or if they're public, but we need to follow up with those because they look pretty chipped up in one of the pictures that I have, so.
And we did talk about possibly having a water bowl for the dogs that would be purchased. Now, I wasn't in on that discussion, but I know some people put water bowls out for their friendly furry friends. So that's another thing that was an option. We're still on the docket to talk about the future projects for the replacement of trees and the tree grates and all of that. So that's all kind of on the back burner right now. The benches, bike racks and trash cans.
So I have a email into, oh my God, I
Doug
forgot his name.
Doug
I keep on
Kincher.
calling chat, Doug, and so that he can possibly come back. The bike racks are we know the benches, that's not a problem, but it's the bike racks. So we want to just look through it again visually to make sure, because it's the kind, it isn't just like bike racks. We have, what does he have, like 5 different?
It's the style. It's
Yeah.
the style. And that day that he was here, remember, that was the coolest day we had all winter. It was really cool. It was bad. So we need to look at that on a nice way.
Let's see, I think that's kind of all. There's not, unless anybody has any questions.
Board, anything? No? Public,
Great job.
anything? No? We're moving along.
So we will need to probably set aside, I don't know if this is gonna take 1/5 of the time to plant the flowers, but a day when we put the mulch down around the
Trees.
trees. Just
Coming up with a day.
probably the week before Memorial or that week, like we did with the flowers the last time.
But we have a part-time employee now, Nate, who does the sidewalk snow removal. He could be involved with that as well.
So Cora doesn't have to do it. All the lugging of the big bags.
Comment on the mulch. We've done that before. In some of the years we tried to figure this out. And it does need some maintenance as the summer progresses. The irrigation or rainstorms will move it out. And it will head to the curb or spread all over the sidewalk. Some places you'll know quickly will have next to nothing in it because of the way the water flows through. So it'll just need some attention every couple of weeks. And definitely after a rainstorm. And Nate can be helpful.
Thank you. Anything on Zoom, Sarah? Okay, Becky, the director's report.
Okay, this is going by quite quickly. The sidewalk snow removal is going quite well. I don't have the exact figure for January yet, but it seems to me to be about $1,000. And for as much snow as we had in January, that's pretty reasonable amount. The things that I'm gonna be working on moving forward is with Gail on the bike racks. We need to get those ordered and all of those, the benches and the trash cans as well. We need to work ahead, as Margaret said, on getting the flower pots designed, so we know, where we're going with that. And I'm certainly hoping we have lots of bids on the lamp post painting, so we can make a good decision on those. It's time to get busy to work on the shopping map and directory signs. It's just a circle of begins all over again. Want to work with Gail a little bit on this historic plaque program we've been talking about, and we are going to be starting to meet on the shuttle to see if we can get anything happening for that going this summer. I have one more thing that I did not put on that list that came up at the last minute again. But it has to happen. We need to talk about it a little bit today, because it's very timely. We received Victor received a request from the public to keep the Christmas lights on Main Street. I think the person would be thrilled if they would stay on all year long, but for another month or another 2 months, at least while it's still dark. And this isn't necessarily a DDA decision, but it would be a council decision. But if the DDA would recommend it or not recommend it, and I see two sides to this, having been in Christmas lit downtowns for a long time. When you put them up, they're so special. If you leave them up too long, then they're not special. But it's dark, it's winter, it's northern Michigan, it's less lights, it's not necessarily indicative of Christmas anymore. It's just a winter display. So we all have individual feelings about this, but if there's any consensus on the
When do they
DDA,
normally come down?
President's Weekend is what I've been told.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I have no history on this. This could have been discussed every single year for 20 years,
Hasn't been.
and it hasn't been.
It's just been always a thing. I mean, well, one year I think we just asked the city to keep them up till President's. And it was just out of, once we hit President's Weekend, it's kind of a crapshoot
Well,
from
I
that
think-
point on.
I think what ended up happening was when we started Ice Fest, the city council agreed to, because we used to keep the tree up to that weekend, but the tree came down and thankfully because of the wind. And then we always, our Ice Fest is usually before, like the weekend before President's Weekend. So then they usually came down after that when the city had time. So at this point, I would probably say not necessarily a DDA recommendation, but deciding what city council wants to do. So I would direct that public comment to the city council because it is the city council with DPW taking them down in their time. I don't think that we really have any say in that at all.
You might have an opinion, just fast forward. You don't have the final say, no.
Yeah.
I've noticed recently, which I did not know, because I guess I never really paid enough attention, but when the Christmas lights are on, the normal lights that we have downtown, the glow lights are off. So, which is something I never really, when I was starting to go to really early morning workouts, I noticed, I was
Yeah.
like very confused.
Yes.
Because I've just never paid attention to that. So, I don't think it's necessarily like a amount of light provided because it's just one light or the other. We either have our normal street lights that we have all year long, or we have these on. So I have no preference. I think it's great. I mean, I think at some point, maybe it gets too long. I mean, I really think that maybe President's Day is fine. I'm also in the position where I think I need to take my wreath down off my store. So in the same boat, I have, yeah.
Anyone else, Chuck, any comment? Tom, any comment?
I like the lights on.
I'd like to see us make a recommendation down the line, that President's Weekend would be the end, and then they take it
I
down.
agree. That's been like a solid 3 months that they've been up at that point. So I think that that's a good, that's like 3 months that they've been up. So I think that that's a good.
Yeah.
Yep. Or almost 3 I agree. So.
I agree, but for all the people coming into town on President's Weekend, it just shows a little
Lingering.
Yeah. lingering cheer. There you go.
So is that a consensus? Could I say that?
I think so, just say.
Doug, how do you feel? Doug? How do you feel?
Pardon me? I'm
How do you-
sorry. I'm
Oh, he
going
didn't,
deaf.
he didn't have a comment.
He didn't have a comment? No comment?
Thank you, Deanna.
Thank you.
Is that all you have? Okay. Any public comments?
I have heard so many comments on how 93rd Street looks this winter with lights. Just both safety and look.
Just, it puts a glow, especially with the snow. It's just beautiful. Anything else? No? Anyone on Zoom? Board members, any comments?
You good?
Nice job on Ice Fest, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming. We appreciate that.